Welcome to Learnit Training. The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Power BI Intro to Data Analysis Part 2. We're going to be covering data visualization and reporting. My name is Faz Kareem, and I'm with Learnit. Before we dive into the material, though, I do want to mention that there is a Part 1 course. And if you haven't checked out the Power BI Getting Started course, I highly recommend to get that checked out before you dive into Part 2. We'll be continuing with the same file and data set from Part 1. A quick overview of what we covered in Part 1. You went over the interface. We connected to our Excel data source. This allowed us to bring in our products table, customer table, as well as sales table. We also created a table using DAX for our calendar. When the data got loaded in, we learned about the Power Query Editor from the Home tab of Power BI's desktop app. We learned about basic cleaning techniques like filtering, sorting, removing duplicates, replacing values. Once we had the data imported and cleaned up, we put together a data model by connecting data sets with their primary keys to establish relationships among the products, the sales, and the customer tables using their ID columns. And now here we are in Power BI Intro to Data Analysis Part 2, Data Visualization and Reporting. I'll also go into the file and explain all the data sets that we've loaded in. We'll do an introduction to data visualization, and we're going to talk about creating basic visuals, the formatting options for them, and how to customize your visuals if you need to. We'll also go into advanced filtering tools, like using slicers. If you need to, there's a marketplace for visuals. Visuals are the graphs, the charts, the filtering tools. And there's a whole marketplace on AppSource that you can access directly through Power BI to get it downloaded and installed and imported to your file. We'll play around with designing interactive reports by learning about bookmarking. If you need to, you can create a specific filter or a specific view of a page and then save that as a bookmark. You can then assign a button to the bookmark. This makes it a pretty interactive report if there's specific details you want to make sure that we can see at a high level as end users of your report. And then, of course, at the end, we'll do a quick overview of our key points. And then we'll do a preview of our next session, advanced analysis and sharing insights. Let's get started here.
Looking to support our channel and get a great deal? Become a member today to unlock ad-free videos. That's right, your favorite courses without a single ad. Interested in a specific video? Purchase one of our ad-free courses individually. Looking for even more? Gain access to exams, certificates, and exclusive content at LearnitAnytime.com. More information can be found in the video description below.
I'll be here in the Power BI desktop file. It's called Power Part 2 Start. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as Part 2 completed, so that way I'm not messing around with my original file. You'll have access to both inside the description. And just to refresh ourselves, in Part 1, we did do an overview of the desktop app. And we learned about specific views like the report view, the table view, the model view, the DAX Power Query view. We learned about the 3 different panes called filters, visualizations, data. We also spent time setting up the page so that grid lines are turned on, the visuals snap to grid. If I go back over to the table view here, I can see some tables that have already been loaded into our data set or our Power BI report. We use DAX to create a table with the calendar auto function. And then we use a series of date and time functions, like the format function, the month number, month function, and then the year function as well. We also chose to sort the month name by the month number. Our customer table tracks all the customers with their customer IDs that connect to the sales table with the relationship. Our products table connects to the sales table with the product ID with the sales table relationship. And here I can see both product ID and customer ID. Now we did use Power Query to remove some duplicate values that showed up in our sales table. And if I go over to my model view here, I can see that the relationships have already been connected and I've already defined this as my calendar table. I have a customer ID on one side and customer ID on another side. I have the product ID on one side and the product ID on another side. So let's start building some visualizations on this page, now that we've done a quick recap of what we put together in part 1. On the report page here, I'm going to toggle over to my visualizations pane and select a visual. Now it's from here you can go through your visual gallery and select what type of visual you want to create. And then you can add the appropriate fields that you want to show up in the visual. Now as new users, you might want to know that you can also just select the fields that you want to see. And Power BI will do its best to create a visual that will show that. So maybe I want to see the products and their total sales that we've made. So let's see what we're selling here. I'm going to add in the product names. And I also am going to check mark total sales. Now I can see from here what it decided to do for me is it put together a table visual. This is a visual that we have that's a table. And right now what it's showing is the product names and the sum of total sales in the table. So let's just take an analysis here. Widget A. Widget A. Well, what's the product ID for widget A? Let me check that. Let me move it next to the product name. Widget A is 101. Here, I'll sort it by product IDs. 101, and that's 1,700 in sales. I'm going to deselect this. And I want to take a look at the sales here for widget A. And if I go over to the table view, I can see 101 was sold for 10 quantities for 1,000 on 1/1. I can see 101 is sold for 7 quantities at 700. If I go back to the report view, that 1,700 seems correct. Now the table is a pretty basic visual in a sense that we've probably been exposed to it with other spreadsheet tools. Notice how I'm just moving it around freely on the page and it snaps to the grid that I've assigned. Of course I can resize it, but as you can see here, I can resize the overall size of the visual, but the table remains the same. I want to mention that if you want to format your visuals, I have the ability to click on this format option. And if I need to, I can go through the visual settings and format things like the style preset. Right now, it's the default setting for the table, similar to Excel table styles. You can also set it to no table styling or minimal. So there's a lot of different table styles that we have access to. And depending on your needs, you can pick the one that you like. I'll go with condensed here. I can choose to keep the grid lines if I want. I can also choose a width for the grid lines. And update the color of the grid lines if I need to. I can also do the same thing for the vertical grid lines. Or turn them off entirely. I can add borders. I can see the blue lines are showing up around it. But of course, we can change the color of those lines if we need to. There was a point where this was Power BI's colors, although they've changed it to more of a green now. More of a green. That's too bright of a green, but we'll keep it. And of course, if I don't like any of these options, I can hit reset to default here for the grid. Goes back to the default. Under values here, check it out. I can choose the size of the font. Now we got to think about this. Legibility in PowerPoint starts sometimes at 28-point font. It's recommended for your titles and whatnot to be larger. So look, I'm upping this to about 28 here. Power BI can be connected to PowerPoint presentations if you needed to. It might make sense to make these things big enough to see in a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Here I can update the text color as well. The background color if I need to. I have alternating rows for this style. I'll keep it all black text. And I'll keep the alternating background color. Oh, not the same. That won't look good. I'll go back to white. Under column headers here, I can increase the size of the column headers. I should probably make that a little bit bigger. And just like the same, we have formatting options for alignment, background color, and text color, and wrapping options. If I go over to totals here, I'm going to update that to total sales. See how it updated that cell right there? Of course, if I didn't want to show the total, I can turn it off if I need to. I can also go into specific columns, change the settings for a specific column at a time. And then I can also do it for cell elements for specific cells as well. The font colors, the icons, the web URL. Now, every visual will have different setting options. These are mainly the visual formatting options. I also have general formatting options from here. Like the size here, of course I can adjust it manually if I need to. I can lock the aspect ratio, but of course I can adjust it manually from here if I need to. The title. So notice how it pops up right at the top there. We have formatting options for the title as well. Yeah, background colors, dividing options. I'm going to go ahead and remove the title though. I have effect options as well. Visual borders that I can add. Header icons, tooltips, And for accessibility reasons, I can add alternative text. So if there's a screen reader, it can describe what this data set is showing. So what I think would be best is try to see if you can create the table visual. See if you can add in the product, the total sales, and the product name columns. Now, if you need to rename them, you can do that from here as well. I can right-click the product ID, and I can rename it for the visual. I'm also going to select the total sales here from the data pane. You see I have it highlighted here. And I'm just going to mark it as currency formatting. See how that updated the values here in the table as well. I have the decimals fixed to auto, and I'll keep it as such. As you're creating your visual, I just want to mention that if you don't want to go line by line, searching for your editing options, there's a search box at the top. Like let's say you needed to increase the font. There's even something called the global font size. Now I'm going to choose to have my table sorted by the total sales here, with the total sales with the highest value on the top. These icons are sorting icons here. Go ahead and create your table visual. All right, I'm also going to deselect this visual now. And I'm going to go over to the Format Your Page option from the Visualizations pane. And under Page Information here, I'm going to give it a name, the table, visual, product sales. Now I'm going to click on another page here. And I'm going to rename this page bar chart. Because if I want, I can also select the visual that I want. I'll go ahead and select the bar chart here. And here I can see I have a y-axis, an x-axis, and a legend that I can fill out. So if I want to see the product names, I can check mark that. And their total sales. Check out how quick that was to create the visual. Now, if I want, I can add in a legend here. You want to break it up by category. So every visual has different formatting options. If I were to click on this icon here, the Format Your Visual icon, I have to have this selected to see that icon. I can see that this visual has different options. There's one for the y-axis. What happens if I turn this off? See my y-axis here? But if I increase the font size to it, turn it off, the product names go away. I can choose to concatenate the labels if I need to as well. I'll go ahead and bold out the product names as well. And here I can see the title there. I'll put some space in the name. product name. And I'll increase the font size to that a little bit. I can do the same exact options for my x-axis. The numbers on the bottom there. Although I like to turn it off, the x-axis values, and instead maybe turn on from the visuals. If you collapse that area, you can turn on data labels. And when I open this up, I can see even the data labels have options here. I can add a background color for the data label. I know that seems interesting, but this is what they mean here. See how there's a background color around the data labels? Just drawing more attention to it. My legend here as well that I've turned on, I've titled it category. Let me make the text size a little bit bigger there. And I want to go over to the general settings here for the title. I'll call it total sales by product. And I'll probably make that bigger too. Here, let me turn off the title for the x-axis there. I'm going to go to visuals, x-axis. Not range, not values, but title. Try to see if you can also create a bar chart visual on a new page. And spend some time just going through the formatting options, all that are available. Now keep in mind, if you click on this ellipses here on the visual, you have an option to show this as a table or export the data. When I export the data here, I can create a CSV file of the data. Isn't that cool? So this is an exported data set from Power BI here. It's a CSV file. If I click on this ellipses here, I can show it as a table. Spotlight it, although it's the only visual on the page. Spotlight it would make it stand out. And then here I can sort the axis by total sales or product names in sending or ascending order. Same with the legend as well. Based off, there's only one category based off descending or ascending order. So plenty of options. I even have a filter option, letting me know if there was any filters applied to this, I would see it. And we will be talking about slicers and timelines after we get through a couple of visuals that I want to showcase. So another visual that we can add is a line graph. Now inside of our visualizations pane, I can see that I have the line graph visual here. If I select it, I can relocate it across the page. And I want to see the quantity and the dates. I'm going to turn on data labels. Our sales data is only 1 week of January. Now, once you've added in the timeline here, we're going to get into pie charts next. And then we'll talk about filtering. So go ahead and add a line graph to a new page and play around with some of the formatting options that we have available. The next visual I want to discuss is the pie chart. If I select the pie chart here and I put it on the map, or on the page, I should say, and let me go ahead and make this bigger for us. I'm going to go ahead and show the products. And I want to see the total sales of each product. This is a great example for a pie since there isn't too many ways to slice it. Now, of course, we have all these formatting options that are available. I'll go ahead and move it to the top, the legend. And of course, we have different formatting options for the visual if it's selected here. I can choose the different colors for the widgets if I need to. I can choose the detail labels and how they're going to show up, and the label contents. So I've added in this pie chart here, and I want to use this page. Let me update the page information. I'm going to deselect the visual, select the page, and I'm going to call this pie chart. Now I want to start talking about filtering, and I'll be using the pie chart to discuss filtering next. All right, the next visual I want to discuss is called a slicer. The slicer is going to help us visualize and filter the visual. So let me deselect everything and select the slicer visual here. And for the slicer, I'm going to add in a field to filter by called product name. This slicer allows me to select a specific product, and it filters the table, the visual, or pie chart. If I hold down the control key, it can select more than one option. Now, if I go over to these options to format the slicer, under the slicer settings, I have different options to show the slicer on the page, and one of them is the vertical list. That's what we're looking at here. This is a vertical list. These are the tiles. I can turn on multi-select. I can also turn on a show a select all option. I can update the slicer header. And since this is a text-based slicer, I can add in a search functionality to it as well. Filters things for me. Now, I'm going to move my pie chart to the side a little bit. If I have a numerical filter, I just want to show this like for quantities maybe. Quantities is numerical. I'm going to change that to a slicer. Numerical filters will have different options. Under slicer settings here, I have different options. And I also don't get the search functionality. In addition to this, I can also add in my own custom visuals from the AppSource. I can click on the ellipses from here to get more visuals. Or if I go to my Insert tab at the top, the option to get more visuals from AppSource is available. If I go to the Home tab, there's an Insert command group. The option to get more visuals is also available. Coming up next, I want to add in the timeline slicer visual. If I go over and add in the AppSource, I take a second to load a visual that I can search for that is rather useful as a timeline slicer. This is Power BI certified, and I'll go ahead and add that in. See how I have a new import created now? If I select that timeline slicer here, I can then filter by, I know I have a date field here somewhere. The dates. There's only one date, though, in January right now, so there isn't too much to filter by. I'll go to the days here, though. So we have our timelines, we have our numerical filter slicers, our text-based filter slicers. Spend some time adding some filtering tools to the page. And once you've added a couple of filtering tools, in the Insert tab, you have access to a command group called Elements. And from there, there's a Buttons drop-down, and you have an option to add a button to clear all of your slicers. So if I have something filtered and I hit Control-Click here, it clears all the slicers there for me. Oh, let me select all, though. Yeah. I went ahead and opened up the bar chart page, bar chart, where I created the total sales by product. And I'm just going to add in a slicer here. So that I can filter by regions, customer regions. I'm also going to add in another slicer for the product names. Or better yet, category names, since there's just two of them. Now, this report, I can filter by region, and I can see the category sales by region. So East region for category 1, 0 sales. East region for category 2, $800 in sales. Power BI allows me to go over to the Insert tab, and I can actually create buttons that will save some of my filtered results. I can bookmark some of them, is what I'm trying to get at. So if I go over to my View tab, there is a Show Panes option for bookmarks. Add a bookmark to save a filter, cross-highlighting, and drilling you've applied. And for the first one, I'm going to select the Add Bookmark option here, but I'm going to have the East and Category 1 selected. And I'm going to add a bookmark. And I'm going to rename this one the East Category 1. If I add another bookmark and I click on Category 2 and I choose to update this bookmark, I can rename this one to East Category 2. So I'm going to clear these filters here. And I'm just going to select this bookmark for category 1. See how it just shows me category 1s? I'm going to select this bookmark for category 2. And since we're clearing the filters so much, I'm going to insert a button to clear all slicers. That way I can just click this every time I need to. So if I need to do the same thing for the North region, category 1, add a bookmark, update, rename, North, I'll do C1. If I hit add again, click on category 2, update, rename. If I click on South, click on category 1, add, update, rename. If I click on category 2, add, update, rename. I'm going to do the same thing for West now, finally, for category 1. Add, update, rename. Same thing for the last one here, category 2, add, update, and then rename. So I have created a bookmark here. Let's test them. Category 1, category 2 for East, North category 1, category 2, South category 1, category 2, South category, West category 1, West category 2. And what I can do here is I can insert these buttons that I can use. I'm going to insert a blank button here. For the action on the button that I just created, I can assign a bookmark. I'll assign my first one. It might be best to, add a title to it if you are going to add a button. I'll go ahead and call this one East C1. So I just created one button as an example here. And when I select this button here, I've already assigned the action for East category 1. So if I were to click that, it assigns that button to it. And depending on what bookmark I assign to this button, maybe I want to do North category 1. If I click on it now, it switches to North category 1. So you can actually create your own filtering tools using buttons and bookmarks. That's one of the features to do so. Creates a pretty interactive report that you can share with others. Go ahead and give this a try. We've put together quite a few different visualizations in part 2, data visualization and reporting. Learn about filtering and slicing, as well as bookmarks and buttons. In this lesson plan, we started out with a quick recap of part 1, an introduction to data visualization, various pie charts, line charts, bar charts, how to format your visuals, using slicers and filters, and accessing the AppSource for custom visuals that you can add in, ultimately using bookmarks and selections to create interactive and user-friendly reports. We do have a part 3 coming up. You'll do advanced analysis, learning about DAX expressions that we can use. We'll understand time intelligence in Power BI, and we'll talk about some AI features that we have available before publishing over to Power BI service.
Thanks for watching. To earn certificates and watch our courses without ads, check out LearnitAnytime.com.